Let's talk about something that's, one of the most valuable things in any company, but we rarely treat it that way. I'm talking about knowledge. And more importantly, how do you stop that knowledge from just vanishing every time a key employee heads for the door? Just picture it for a second. That person who just gets it. They know the clients, the history, all the weird little unwritten rules. The second they're gone, it's like a huge piece of your company's brain just disappears. And all of a sudden, things that were easy become, well, they become massive headaches. It's a scene that plays out all the time. And this isn't some small, isolated problem. The scale here is, wow, it's huge. Get this, 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every single day. That's not a slow leak. That's a tidal wave of experience just washing out of the workforce. So this isn't some far-off risk. It is a massive, happening right now brain drain that hits productivity, it hits innovation, it hits everything. So, what's the game plan? How do we fix this? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down. We're going to start with what we're calling the knowledge exodus. Then we'll get into the two different kinds of knowledge you're dealing with. We'll look at the very real price you pay for doing nothing, and then we get to the good stuff, a 6-step plan to actually solve this. And finally, we'll talk about how to make it all a permanent part of your culture. Okay, first step, the knowledge exodus. Think of it like a quiet crisis happening in the background. Your company's collective intelligence is just slowly leaking away. And every drop that leaves makes you a little less efficient, a little less competitive. The answer to stopping this brain drain is a process called knowledge transfer. So what do we even mean by that? Knowledge transfer? Put simply, it's the system for getting all that critical know-how out of just one person's head and turning it into a shared resource that the whole team can use. It's about making sure that expertise stays with the company, even when the people do not.
Okay, so to actually pull this off, you have to understand a really important distinction. Not all knowledge is created equal. There are two very different types, and trust me, you need a different game plan for each one.
On one side, you've got what's called explicit knowledge. This is the stuff that's pretty easy to write down, to document, and to share. But on the other side, you have tacit knowledge. And this is the real secret sauce. It's the wisdom that only comes from years of doing the job, and it is way, way harder to get your hands on. Let's break it down. So, explicit knowledge. This is the straightforward stuff. Think of your training manuals, your company wiki, your standard operating procedures. A perfect example is the exact step-by-step checklist for setting up a new supplier in your system. It's logical, it's clear, and it's pretty easy to pass along. But tacit knowledge, this is where the magic happens. This is pure intuition. It's that gut feeling, that seasoned judgment that only comes from years of experience. It's the salesperson who just knows instinctively the perfect moment to make the pitch. You're not going to find that in a manual anywhere. And frankly, this is usually the most valuable stuff that walks out the door. Now, if the idea of losing all that hard-won wisdom doesn't worry you, maybe this will. Let's talk about the bottom line, because failing to manage your company's knowledge, well, it's not just a logistical pain. It is a major, major financial drain. Check this out. For a small business, getting knowledge transfer right can save up to $2 million a year. A year. That's the cost of your team wasting countless hours trying to reinvent the wheel or hunting down information that should have been right at their fingertips. And if you're a big company, the numbers just get insane. The potential savings can jump to $200 million. So yeah, this is not a small-time problem. This is a massive opportunity to make your entire business run better. And look, a solid plan doesn't just prevent bad things from happening. It actively makes your company better. You're protecting your institutional memory, sure, but you're also boosting productivity across the board, giving people the tools they need to innovate, and, a big one, getting new hires up to speed in a fraction of the time. All right, we've laid out the problem. We know the stakes are high. So the big question is, how do we actually do this? Let's get into the solution. Here is your 6-step blueprint for capturing that expertise before it's gone. So here it is, the whole framework in one shot, and it's really logical when you look at it. First, you identify what's truly important. Then, you collect it in an organized way. You share it with the right people. Then, you have to adapt and update it because things always change. You apply it in the real world. And finally, you use that solid foundation to create brand new knowledge. Step 1 is all about focus. You can't capture every little thing, so you have to zero in on what is mission critical. And the absolute best way to start is with this one simple but really powerful question. If your number one expert quit tomorrow, what's the information you would be desperately scrambling to find? That right there, that's your starting point.
So once you know what you need to capture, you need a system to collect it. And as you can see, something as simple as a checklist can work wonders. Instead of just asking someone for a brain dump, a template like this makes sure you're grabbing the key contacts, the potential risks, and that super valuable tacit knowledge, the little insights and wisdom about what actually works, and just as important, why. Now for step 3, sharing. For all that explicit knowledge, the stuff that's easy to write down, you've got a ton of great options. Things like internal expert blogs, quick how-to videos, really detailed operating procedures, or a central company wiki. These tools make it super easy for people to find what they need when they need it.
But what about that tricky tacit knowledge? Remember, you can't just drop that into an FAQ document. Sharing it means getting people involved. We're talking about things like mentorship programs, letting someone shadow an expert for a week, running real-world simulations, or creating what are called communities of practice, where people in similar jobs can just get together and share what they're learning.
Okay, we're heading into what might just be the most important part of this whole thing. Because capturing knowledge is great, but making it a living, breathing part of how your company actually operates, that's the real win. This is all about making this stick for the long haul.
See, those last 3 steps, adapt, apply, and create new, are what turn this from a one-time project into a nonstop cycle of improvement. Knowledge gets old, so it needs to be updated. It's useless unless it's actually applied. And it's that real-world application that sparks new ideas and leads to innovation. It's a flywheel that just keeps your organization getting smarter and smarter. At the end of the day, success really comes down to a shift in culture. And this quote just nails it perfectly. You have to get away from a world where individuals hoard their knowledge and move to a place where everyone understands that this information is a shared asset. Sharing it doesn't diminish your value, it makes the entire team stronger.
So I'll just leave you with this one final thought to chew on. As you're sitting here right now, what's the single most critical piece of knowledge in your company that lives inside just one person's head? And what's your plan to protect it before it's too late?